Harrison. How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Hey, I wanted to ask you about that 70-some, what was it, 77-yard field goal you put on Twitter a few weeks ago. How many times did you try that? How many times did you make it? And do you feel like the NFL record, the game record, is in reach for you someday, if assuming conditions are right?
Yeah, so obviously in the off season, that's kind of when you're messing around a little bit. Typically in a normal practice, I would never go back to that distance. I think when you start getting to 77 yards, you're doing some different things with your technique to get the ball as far as you can. So it did take me a bunch of tries, and I mean, obviously there was a ton of wind, so I was like, heck, I'm going to go out there and see if I can beat my my long, which would have been the kick in Mexico City, the 72-yarder in the warm-ups. But yeah, I just kept pushing the ball back, and no, I wasn't very accurate from back there, but I made one, and it kind of went viral on social media. So that was pretty fun to do. In terms of the NFL record, I think it's 63, 64 yards. Is that correct? In that? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of kickers that have the leg to make a field goal, live snap, hold, everybody trying to block the kick in a game situation. It's just, does the coach want to put the kicker out there? Because if he misses, now the other team gets the ball with great field position. So you kind of have to get set up with, end of halftime, end of game situation. I don't think we've had that situation potentially where it would have been that long of a field goal. But I think definitely when it's warm out, I'd be prepared to make that kick. I know in training camp we made a 67-yarder to 65, 67-yarder together with the team, full operation. So, I mean, I'll be ready to go, but it has to be kind of the perfect situation where if you miss, it doesn't matter and the half or the game is over.
Do you feel like your ability to make a long kick like that is better now at this point in your career than it was maybe, say, when you got to the Chiefs? And if so, why?
Oh, completely. I think one thing that I struggled with in Carolina and then in the 2017 season is I was getting under the sweet spot a lot. So the ball was spinning a ton. It was going straight, which was great. I made a lot of kicks in 2017 with, I had a 49-yarder against the Texans in 2017. The ball barely went over the crossbar. So I'm having enough leg to make the kicks in 2017, but I'm not quite hitting the sweet spot. 2018, I made some adjustments. I went from a jab two-step kicker to just a two-step kicker. I think it was good for me to make that transition, but it wasn't until probably 2019 where I felt super comfortable with it. I think 2019 was my best year. I know 2017 I had a ton of kicks from 30 to 40 yards. 2019, I had a one missed kick under 40, and then I had, 17 kicks between 40 and 50 and was perfect on all of those to my memory. And then I had a couple misses from 50 and beyond. But I was really happy with how I performed in 2019. Obviously need to focus on the extra points, but I think just now in my third season, I was able to find the sweet spot a lot better. And then this offseason, I think, has been my best offseason yet. I've been working out hard. I've been doing a lot of sprint work. I've been kind of switching up my diet a little bit to drop a little bit of body fat. I know the strength coaches were like, whoa, man, you don't have a lot of body fat to drop, but I was able to drop some, and now I feel super explosive. My vert's gone up, my sprint speed, and obviously kicking the ball, I feel super comfortable from distance. And obviously we're not going to be kicking field goals from that long, most likely in the game, but it's going to help me a lot when it's a 55-yarder, winds in your face in January and February. So that's kind of what I'm training for, to be able to make those kicks.
Let's go to Matt Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Harrison, hope you and the family are doing well right now. You and Dustin have talked about the relationship between a kicker and the holders, being kind of like a caddy and a golfer. Curious, now that you're going to be working with some young guys, look like either Tommy or Tyler may win that job. How does that change for you as far as how you communicate with a young holder that you haven't worked with before, as far as setting up your kicks, and how much more of that responsibility will you be taking on yourself this year, you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Dustin was definitely a leader when I got to the Chiefs. He was able to guide me, and you talked about the caddy to golfer relationship. I'd go out there on really windy days, and sometimes I'd have an awful warm-up off of the sticks, and then Dustin would make some changes with the hold, and I'd be kicking the ball straight and making them. So he was able to do a lot with the holds, and I think after 3 years of picking his brain, I was able to pick up on a lot of his expertise. So now with Tommy and Tyler competing for the starting punting job, that obviously means that they're going to be the holder. So we've been getting together 6 days a week and just kind of building, number one, building that relationship, building the bond, because you have to be close. You're going to be kicking game-winning kicks together, and you have to be able to trust the other person. And then from there, just trying to figure out the communication for the balling, for the laces, for how their hands out when they call for the snap from James. I mean, there's just so many small things that you have to perfect. I mean, there are so many guys that can do my job, that can hold the ball, but how well can you do it? Can you do it at an elite level? I think that's what separates people, and it's focusing on the details. And that's one thing that I've really tried to now be the leader. Now that Dustin's no longer here, unfortunately, I'm kind of the leader, and I'm the one teaching them about the holding stuff. But Dustin was able to share a ton of information with me, and now kind of going on year 4, I'm going to have to be the leader now and help those guys out.
Go to Sam McDowell. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Harrison. Just to touch a little bit more on Dustin. I mean, you mentioned him as a holder, but as a person, I mean, what stands out about your relationship with him as a person? And I guess just what's the oddity of going into the facility whenever you guys can go back and him not being there?
Yeah, well, he was definitely the jokester on the team. You know, even though he was 34, 36 years old, 15 years in the league, he was able to keep a really good mood in the locker room. And especially for me, I mean, when I got there in 2017 as a rookie, I was super serious, very focused, which I'm glad that's just part of my personality. But away from the field, he was able to get me to relax a little bit. And I think that was awesome mentally for me. So I am going to miss that. You know, we'll definitely stay in close relationship with texting and calling. But I think he added a great perspective to football is temporary. You know, obviously Dustin loves it. I love the game of football. But there are bigger things going on outside. I mean, he's a family man. He's got 5 kids, and I loved going over to his house and just seeing how he interacted with his kids. And he's a great father. And now, you know, I'm a husband and now a father as well. So I was able to learn a ton from him. But he was a big role model for me in that locker room to see how an NFL player should conduct himself on and off the field. And now, you know, James Winchester, our snapper, he's the old man now. And I guess I'm in number 2 spot with Tyler and Tommy both being young pups.
Let's go to Robert Rimson. Go ahead, Robert.
Robert Rimson, Fox 4. Hey, Harrison. So the onside kick replacement rule got tabled. I don't know if you knew about that, but kind of give us your opinion on what you thought about the replacement rule, if you were in favor or against it, or if not that sort of thing, like 4th and 15, would you be in favor of some other sort of onside kick replacement?
To tell you the truth, I haven't been updating myself too much on the new rules. I briefly saw it. I saw Patrick put out a tweet, you know, with maybe the eye emoji or something about 4th and 15. So it'll be interesting to see. My biggest concern maybe with that is, you know, how many times can you do that in a game? And maybe it's 2 times. I haven't seen the details too much with it. I'm all for bringing more excitement to the game of football. And I think last year it took probably 80% of the season to go by before kickers and kickoff teams started to figure out, okay, how can we get the onside kick to be more effective with these new kickoff rules? I think the Falcons got a bunch of onside kicks towards the end of the season. But if you're just going out there for an onside kick and there's almost a 0% chance of you getting it, that's no good for the game of football. So I think the more ways they can brainstorm to say, how can we make this a little bit more exciting at the end of the game, I'm all for it. But to tell you the truth, I haven't done a ton of research into the new rules and how that affects everything that's going on.
Let's go to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, Harrison. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I was curious, you mentioned that you and the specialists are getting together 6 times a week. If you could detail that, is it the 4 of you guys with the 2 punter prospects included? Is it in person? Is it at a park? How is that working? Or is it virtually? I just was curious as to how that process goes.
Well, obviously, we have the 4 days a week virtual meetings that we meet with the Coach Tobe and Coach Andy Hill. But we've been meeting on a lot of high school fields to be able to get some work in, to be able to – I mean, obviously, we're not kicking 6 days a week. We're doing 2 to 3 days of kicking, but the rest is, you know, we're getting intense holding drills done. I think so much of holding is repetition. I don't believe like, oh, I'm just a natural great holder. I think that's something that you can continue to work on. So I love the work ethic of Tommy and Tyler. They're all about getting better, and they know a big part of being the punter is also being the holder, and that affects what I do. So I'm all for them getting more work as well. But yeah, we've done a lot of going to public parks that are still open and fields to get as much work as we can.
So it's both holders / punters working together, and the dynamic's okay, even though they will be competing with each other?
Yeah, when we started talking with the virtual off season, we just figured it would be best for Tommy and Tyler to be up here because, as I was saying earlier, the chemistry is so important with Dustin not being here anymore. We have to form that relationship. What I did not want is for us to show up training camp, and that was the first time for us to meet, get to know each other, and now we're doing live snap hold kicks together. So the more we can be around each other, the better, and we're just doing the best we can with all the laws that are in place right now in Missouri and Kansas.
Let's go to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Harrison, I wanted to ask you again about those workouts you just talked about. Do you feel like those are as effective as what you might be doing if this was your normal off season and Tobe was standing there watching everything you guys did?
So when it comes to the kicking and punting, I think there is an aspect of actually being at the facilities. You have the nice cameras behind you filming everything. You know, you're on the nice football field, you're outdoors. Everything is just very put together and nice, which is something that we're missing out on. However, the amount of time that you can spend at the facilities is very limited. And I know that's through our agreement with the NFLPA and everything. And that's the way it is. But this offseason has allowed Tommy, Tyler, me, and James to spend three hours on the field together and then go work out together. I mean, we have all day basically to get work in, where in the set off season, you don't have a ton of time. So it has been really good. However, ideally, Coach Toe would be there. We would have the nice film. We could watch it on our iPads because right now everything's, on our phone, but we're making the best for the situation that we have.
Great. Thanks.
Let's go to Matt McMullen. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Harrison. I'm just curious, with the extra time at home during this offseason, have you reflected at all on just how crazy the last 3 years have been from you when you joined the Chiefs midseason, make that big kick on Monday Night Football, and then 3 years later you're a Super Bowl champ? Maybe you don't get caught up in that kind of thing, but have you thought back on just how amazing the last 3 years have been for you over the last few months?
I really haven't. I am very blessed to be in this position and to win the Super Bowl, but we're kind of in a transitional townhome right now, and we never actually got cable. So like we have the apps on Apple TV to be able to watch games, but in terms of like watching the Super Bowl, I still haven't rewatched it. And for me, when I see the flashing lights on the the cable broadcast, that's when it really hits you. But man, this was a Super Bowl that you can kind of miss out on that when you're there in person and everything's going on and going very fast. But I don't know, maybe when I finally rewatch the Super Bowl for the first time, it'll hit me more. But I'm a huge believer in just keeping my head down and working. And then maybe when I'm done with my whole football career, I'll look back on everything. But I am just so focused right now and living in the moment that I don't know. When I'm all done, I can look back on that stuff and just kind of say, wow, this has been an amazing ride. But I'm not done with it yet, so I'm still going.
All right, looks like we've got one more. Darren, go ahead.
Hey, Harrison, thank you for joining us. I want to ask you a couple of questions. One, have you been keeping your sanity throughout, having to be stuck at home? But also, on a more serious note, obviously, a lot of I'm looking at your T-shirt and it says brotherhood, and a lot of your brotherhood in the sports world, football, basketball, as such, they've been talking and dealing with this issue that took place in Minneapolis. Love to know your thoughts. Love to know if you talked to any of your teammates, what their thoughts are about that as well.
Yeah, so I haven't talked to my teammates about it, but it's super sad. I can't even get through that whole video. It's very heartbreaking, and I think Adam Schefter tweeted out or something that the officer was now been arrested and everything. But I think the biggest thing is bringing justice to those the perpetrators, and it's just an unfortunate situation, and but that's what we're dealing with in our society right now, and I think we have to figure out ways to hold people accountable. And it is very sad, and obviously I'd love to live in a world where that type of injustice wasn't going on. But at the end of the day, I think we're all sinful people, and we need God in our lives, and we need to be able to love one another as brothers, as members of the human race.